Today we have a real international match between the French, German and Japanese car industries. Two of these cars are plug-in hybrids, and the last one with a conventional internal combustion engine. Why is this so? I'll talk about this later. You are watching the 2 Horsepower program. My name is Raul. Stay with us. If you remember, our cars are not cheap, and even the outrageously very cheap Volkswagen Tiguan on the iPhone, for $45,000, is just the starting price. Because it can be easily upgraded to $55,000, or perhaps up to $60,000. But it's not that. For that kind of money, I think it is natural that these cars should have an electric boot drive, and there is one here. And now we will test these electric drives. This is Toyota. Toyota succeeds on the first try. Now we look at Volkswagen. More precisely, not a Volkswagen but a Peugeot. And after that, let's look at Volkswagen. Everything works fine. And now I would like to have these trunks in cars closed with the remote control. So where do we start? We'll start our review with a Peugeot. Everything works for a Peugeot car. Everything works for a Volkswagen car. Everything works for a Toyota car too. I really love that this feature works great. By the way, pay your attention to how the exhaust pipes are integrated in cars. At Peugeot it is integrated, even integrated v Volkswagen Tiguan, although it is not necessary for an internal combustion engine. There is a possibility that we will soon get hybrids. Toyota still has classic tailpipes and is probably the fastest hybrid in our test, although Peugeot may disagree. For a Toyota Detour is always a challenge and a daunting test. Although at an initial speed of 55 km per hour, the RAV-4 looks confident and determined to win. At a speed of 60 km per hour, the car has a roll angle, but it makes the detour calmly and with minimal work by the driver inside the car. The speed of 65 km per hour is overcome without visible problems, but the roll angles are already felt. At 70 km an hour, stability becomes like a crumbling house of cards, and the car gets out of control, although security systems are trying to save the situation to the end. The next attempt also fails. My top speed while avoiding obstacles in the Toyota RAV-4 plug-in hybrid is 65 km per hour. A speed of 55 km per hour is also a warm-up Peugeot. At 60 km per hour, the same roll angles appear as the Toyota, but they warn the driver of the current situation rather than interfere with the maneuver. At a speed of 65 km per hour, the car overcomes obstacles without any problems, but it makes me uncomfortable because of the cut off the steering wheel shelf. I did not manage to avoid obstacles at a speed of 70 km per hour the first time. I knocked down a traffic cone at the start, although I tried to drive carefully. But the second attempt ended in success. I tried to maneuver at 70 km per hour, but here it is obvious that I need to practice well. There are chances to do this. After heavy and large enough competitors, the Tiguan looks light and maneuverable. Tiguan very stable at 55 km per hour. At 60 km per hour, I did not notice the roll angles. At 65 km an hour, I felt the traction, but it was not abrupt and really helped. At a speed of 70 km per hour, it is overcome in normal mode and it is felt that for the Tiguan this is no feat, but ordinary work. At 75 km/h, I touch a traffic cone a little and have to start over from the beginning. And everything is very successful. And in the final race, at a speed of 80 km/h, the Trexans set up just perfect. Tiguan is one of the few that was able to avoid our obstacles at such a high speed. ZMOICO exercise is usually just as unpredictable as avoiding obstacles. In this exercise, cars that look very sporty can easily lose the race, while ordinary outsidery can win. We'll start with them. Toyota RAV-4 on exercise ZMOICO looks like a reliable pregnant antelope, whose task is not to scatter children from the cabin. It does this well. The best result is 12 1200ths of a second. The Peugeot 3008 is narrower and definitely smaller than the Toyota and appears to be more agile. To be honest, it really is. And this is confirmed by the result of 11 8800ths of a second. Tiguan, which is not overloaded with batteries and electric motors, answer. It is almost 1 second ahead of its competitors. It demonstrates the best time on this test, 11.400ths of a second. When we overlay one video on top of another, it becomes obvious that 1 or even half a second on the ZMOICO exercise is, if not an eternity, then a lot. So, the rear seat of the Peugeot 3008 is the closest of the three, obviously due to the cool design. Here the driver's seat is tuned for me. The back of the seat is hard and my knees rest against this back a little. The second minor issue, however, is that my legs don't fit well under the seats, and I want this seat to be slightly higher apart. But it could also be because I lowered the driver's seat as low as possible. We have a panoramic roof here. Because of this, we lost a few centimeters of free space, but I'm comfortable here. I am in this small corner of the panoramic roof and my head is safe. There are exactly the same cool designer seats here. I mean the second row, and we have the armrest here. In addition to the armrest, we have air ducts here. We have a 12-volt cigarette lighter socket. And we have 2 USB. Also, these seats can neither be brought closer nor moved. And the backs of these seats are not adjustable. And now, in 2021, I have complaints about cars that cost $45,000, $50,000, $60,000, cars that call themselves Universal Crossover Army, because we have new standards and new requirements. I want all this to be able to be brought closer and moved away, and the backs could be folded out. Because if it is a crossover, then it should be as versatile and convenient as possible for the consumer. Otherwise, how does this all differ from the usual universal or hatchback? Volkswagen looks like a classic crossover. That is why there is a high ceiling and a lot of headroom. There is a lot of room for passengers. There is a lot of room for me here. There is enough room for my knees. There is even a distance of a few millimeters from the seat. The knees do not rest on the front seat backrest, and most importantly, these backs are soft. Even if you press your knees into the seat, then you still have 2 to 3 centimeters of free space. There is also a lot of legroom. There really is a lot of distance. We have a Type C. We have a 12-volt cigarette lighter. We have heated seats, and as far as I understand, we can regulate this heated seats. The backrests of our seats can be fixed in different positions. It is very good. I can also move this second row of seats in or out. And this, of course, is a very important argument in favor of the Volkswagen Tiguan. I think this should be the case in every car. The backlight is diode here. And that's very good too. In general, I must admit right away that the rear seats of the Volkswagen much more comfortable than the rear seats of the Peugeot, but not so stylish. Because here these seats are not leather, but here we have fabric inserts. Maybe some people like fabric more than leather. Okay, now we will take a look at the Toyota. This is a Toyota RAV-4. By the way, please note that all our participants have black ceilings. There is more than enough Toyota RAV-4. I like the way the seat backs are installed. Usually, they are vertical and it is very inconvenient for you to travel long distances, but here the angle of inclination is well chosen. There is an armrest here. We have air ducts here. We have 2 USB ports and heated seats, and you can find the buttons on the door handles. Perhaps the backlight is diode, but against the background of competitors it loses in design. And these seats, I cannot move in or out. Now I will try to adjust these seat backs. Yes, you can adjust the seat backs, there are 2 positions. And the second position is very comfortable. Wait a minute, I'll adjust the seat for myself. And now, in general, it's kind of great. What can I tell you? I think that in terms of the amount of free space for rear passengers, only Tiguan and Toyota RAV-4 can compete with each other, because the Peugeot 3008 obviously smaller, but we understood this from the very beginning. Because Peugeot 3008 looks smaller than RAV-4 and seems to be about 1.5 times smaller. Yes, and the Tiguan looks compact in general. Toyota is probably the visually largest of the 3. It absolutely does not deceive these assumptions with the sensations inside the cabin. Everything is logical, large outside, a lot of space inside. It would be much worse if this whole size ended only in external dimensions. Please note that we have a leather interior, that it is perforated leather. But I must say that despite the fact that there are such red stripes of fabric, the leather is not of the best quality. This is the tactile sensation. You know, the same tarpaulin is on the door cards. But I know for sure that this coating will last a very, very long time, because this is Toyota. We brake at a speed of 60 km per hour, and the first to pass the Volkswagen Tiguan. His best braking result is 11 meters and 46 centimeters, and the worst result is 12 meters and 15 centimeters. The average, according to the results of 3 stages, is 11 meters 70 centimeters. At the same time, this car has the 19th diameter of rims and Continental. The best braking result of the Peugeot 3008 is 12 meters 95 centimeters. The worst result is 13 meters 54 centimeters. The average is 13 meters 15 centimeters. There are 18th diameter car rims and Michelin. What results will Toyota? The best braking result for Toyota is 11 meters 49 centimeters. The worst result is 12 meters 86 centimeters. The average is 12 meters 40 centimeters. There are 19th diameter car rims and Bridgestone tires. The test results are as follows: Tiguan in first place, Toyota in second, Peugeot in third. All 3 crossovers, in our test, are presented with an all-wheel drive system, but in the Gybrid electric motors are responsible for the drive along the axles, and in the Tiguan everything is unchanged, the Haldex. We start with him in full confidence that everything will be at a good level. And so it happened. When at least one front wheel has traction, everything looks perfect. The car has enough torque to move and get out of the trap. With one rear wheel, things are always much more difficult, but here, too, the Tiguan does an excellent job. Although it takes a little more time. Basically, it is spent so that the electronics assess the situation and transfer the torque to the desired axle and wheel. Now let's see what the Peugeot 3008. On our solo test, it pleased me pleasantly on a dirt road and on inclines at high angles. But exercises with podiums, where the wheels completely lose traction, are often much more difficult than ordinary off-road conditions, and this is exactly what happened. Peugeot worked long and painstakingly to get the front wheel to move the entire car, but in the end it did a great job. The situation got even worse when only one rear wheel had traction. I tried all the riding modes and all the options that could help, right down to the brakes while the accelerator pedal is depressed. As a result, the Sturmendrang option partially helped, when you simply press the gas pedal and pull out the podiums and asphalt from under you. Can this be called an unconditional victory? Certainly not. What results will Toyota have? After all, there is an electric motor on the rear axle, which ensures the operation of all-wheel drive. Well, I must admit that the first exercise Toyota performs, although not as fast as the Tiguan, but not less efficient. But with exercises number 2, everything is much worse than that of the Peugeot. Despite all efforts, this hybrid Toyota could not overcome so much. Does this mean that Peugeot and Toyota are completely helpless off-road? Most likely no. But, I would advise specialists to pay attention to the electronics that control the four-wheel drive algorithms and imitation of locks. This should help in solving the problem. According to the manufacturers, all 3 crossovers in our test have collision avoidance and emergency braking systems. Judging from my practice, in this discipline, usually, only the French do not exaggerate their capabilities. So I start with the Peugeot 3008. The car moves towards a motionless obstacle at a speed of up to 30 km/h. The car, without the participation of the driver, recognizes the threat in time and brakes, albeit with a minimum distance to the Mazda. The same thing is repeated when the cruise control on and at a speed of 30 to 32 km/h. As always, Peugeot precise and stable. I have valid doubts about the Tiguan, because it loves to destroy all obstacles. According to the customer support, this is not the car's fault, but ours, because instead of a real iron car, we exhibit some kind of craft from the boxes, which the smart VAHA. I disagree with this, because even in early tests we added a metallized ribbon to the layout. Okay, let's move on. At a speed of up to 30 km/h, the Tiguan rolls onto the Mazda and, without the participation of the driver and the presence of metal in the box, stops in front of an obstacle. As they say, the deaf began to see, and the blind heard something. Attempt number 2 brings more good cruise control. Tiguan detects a threat even earlier and stops more smoothly. Toyota is not a champion in the self-braking discipline either, and in this test it confirms its reputation. The first attempt ends in fact with an accident, because the electronics only detect the obstacle, but does nothing more. The second attempt with cruise control enabled was unsuccessful. It was a fiasco. Now, for the two finalists, we are making the task more difficult. Now the cars are going one after the other, and at some point the car in front drives to the side and another car suddenly appears on the road. And this is where the wonders for Peugeot and Volkswagen end. We have tests dedicated to each of these cars. And you can follow the links and see more detailed reviews. But there are people who will not do this, so I will briefly talk about the architecture and characteristics of competitors. This is Toyota RAV-4 plug-in hybrid, a motor with a volume of 2.5 liters, fuel, gasoline, atmosphere, plus 2 electric motors, front for 144 kilowatts, rear 40. The battery is lithium-ion, with a capacity of 18 and 1 kilowatt per hour. The total power of the hybrid is 306 horsepower, acceleration to hundreds in 6 seconds. The car must travel 75 kilometers using only electric traction. In reality, I drove 69.5, which is regarded as a success. Toyota is capable of accelerating solely on electric traction to a speed of 135 km per hour, and the engine is capable of operating in generator mode, which recharges the battery on the go. Using a normal home network will charge the car in approximately 8 hours, and quick charge will do this in 2 hours and 45 minutes. I swear to Volkswagen, but in one of the races Toyota accelerated to 106 4/10 of a second, but are draggy. So there is only an official result of 7 21/100 of a second. This result is worse for a second, but is for the modern generation, Ovoshny crossover of very cool. Peugeot 3008 is also a Peugeot 3008 gasoline engine 1 6/10 of a litre, turbo, 200 horsepower. There are 2 electric motors 110 horsepower front, 113 horsepower rear. Battery for 13 and 2 kilowatt-hours. The total power of 300 horsepower is the promised acceleration of 5 9/10 of a second to hundreds. Electric run 59 kilometers. From your home network, you can charge it in 6 to 7 hours, and from a high-speed charger in less than 2 hours. The car can also use the combustion engine as a generator and efficiently recharge the battery. In the case of Peugeot and Toyota, remember that real fast electric charging will not help you, because these cars are not capable of receiving power, for example, 50 kilowatts. I'm talking about 7 to 8 kilowatts. Acceleration with a charged battery takes 5 7/10 of a second and is very fast. And with a conditionally discharged battery, 6 4/10 of a second is also cool. Electric mileage 50 kilometers, presumably. Volkswagen Tiguan is a real traditional 2-liter car, the turbo. That's 220 horsepower, 350 newton torque, 7-speed gearbox, DSG, promised acceleration of 6 3/10 of a second, 4-wheel drive with Haldex. What is the acceleration time? 6 4/10 of a second, so we already know for sure the winner in dynamics up to 100 km per hour. First place, Peugeot 3008 5 7/10 of a second, second place, Tiguan 6 4/10 of a second, and third, Toyota 7 2/10 of a second. Now let's talk about fuel consumption. In city traffic, in automatic mode, Toyota consumption of 2 9/10 of a litre, and in generator mode everything is not so excellent 7 3/10 of a litre. But, really, then you can save fuel again and drive another 30 kilometers on electric traction. So at the moment everything looks very good, I would say excellent. If we talk about fuel consumption on the highway, then at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour the fuel consumption is 5 7/10 of a litre, and at 130 kilometers per hour 7 6/10 of a litre. Fuel consumption on the highway at Peugeot, at a speed of 95 2/10 of a litre, and at 130 to 8 9/10 of a litre. If we talk about the city, then for the first 100 kilometers with a charged battery there is a chance of 2 liters per 100 kilometers. The real consumption of the Tiguan on the highway is 6 5/10 of a liter at 90 and 9 5/10 of a liter at 130 kilometers per hour. In the city from 8 to 12 liters, depending on the temperament of the driver. At the moment, prices for such a hybrid Toyota RAV-4 in Ukraine cost 1,552,000 Ukrainian hryvnias, and in dollars it is 57,500. For such a hybrid Peugeot 3008 they ask for 1,515,000 hryvnia, which is $56,100. As for the Volkswagen Tiguan, the starting sales price from the factory, complete set with R-line and everything, they asked for $44,000, but now the car should be cheaper. I think that at a time when the market does not understand which technologies will win, hybrid, although an expensive and complex product, is more versatile than electric vehicles. Electric cars are only suitable for urban use and short walks outside the city. I think the Volkswagen Tiguan is a great example of a conventional ICE car that easily competes with the hybrid army, albeit at a lower cost. The higher fuel consumption is offset by a starting price that is at least $10,000 lower than Toyota and Peugeot. Another thing is eco-standards, which in the near future will not be able to fulfill any internal combustion engine in the world. Now let's briefly talk about car interiors, roof racks, clearance and options. Toyota has the most spacious interior and Peugeot has the smallest. Peugeot is the leader in interior design and premium materials. Volkswagen and Toyota, ranked second. I would say Volkswagen second, while Toyota is third. When it comes to multimedia systems, Toyota the worst, Peugeot most advanced, and Volkswagen most functional. At the same time, the coolest 360-degree camera is at Vaha, then there is Peugeot, and at the very end of the tunnel is Toyota, barely shining. Clearance Volkswagen 200mm, clearance Peugeot 219mm, clearance Toyota 190mm. For car trunks, Volkswagen from 615 liters to 1,655 liters, Toyota 490 liters to 1,604 liters, Peugeot 395 liters to 1,357 liters.